Welcome once again to the SCP Foundation. I am 05-4 and today we will be discussing object classes. And if you're viewing this video, congratulations on your promotion. I'm sure it's well deserved. Now, before we dive into object classes, let's go over what is and isn't a skip. An SCP is something that requires special containment procedures. However, there are several anomalous items, extranormal events, and unexplained locations that do not require an SCP classification. An example of an anomalous item that doesn't require special containment procedures would be a large NASA t-shirt recovered by the Foundation in 2012. The stars depicted on the shirt emit very small amounts of solar radiation and light via an anomalous manner. But since it doesn't require special containment, it's currently framed in a researcher's office. There are also extra-normal events that cannot be contained and therefore are not skips. These events, as well as the anomalous items, are logged for research. An example of an event would be the time where a bunch of cats just started congregating in Sweden. Domesticated felines started migrating and they congregated in a city in Sweden. Couldn't figure out why that happened, but all we had to do was hand out some amnestics, drugs that make you forget things, and the cats returned home all by themselves, so it wasn't too much trouble. Now, unexplained locations that do not require special containment procedures are also logged. An example would be a small storage shed in Scotland where the internal temperature is at a constant negative 273 degrees Celsius, or 0 degrees Kelvin. The shed was labeled contained in 2017 after being purchased by the Foundation. After its containment, it was designated UE for unexplained 656688. And is now used for cold storage and thermodynamic research. There are also groups of interest and people of interest that may or may not be anomalous, but are not skips because they're either uncontained or uncontainable. The latter is usually due to either difficulty or ethical dilemmas. For example, Sarkic cults are always groups of interest, but hardly ever require SCP classification themselves. It's typically the cities or villages they reside in that end up being the skips. So let's start off with the big ones, primary classes. These are the object classes that make up the bulk of the skips that are currently in Foundation custody. We'll go from least interesting to most interesting, in my opinion. So we're starting at safe. Now, safe class SCPs are anomalies that are easily and safely contained. This is often due to the fact that the Foundation has researched the skip well enough that containment does not require significant resources or that the anomalies require a specific and conscious activation or trigger. Classifying an SCP as safe, however, does not mean that handling or activating it does not pose a threat. Next, we have Euclid. Now, Euclid class SCPs are anomalies that require more resources to contain, completely or where containment isn't always reliable. Usually, this is because the skip is insufficiently understood or inherently unpredictable. Euclid is the object class with the greatest scope, and it's usually a safe bet that an SCP will be this class if it doesn't easily fall into any other type of standard object class. Now, as a side note, any skip that's autonomous, sentient, or sapient is generally classified as Euclid due to the inherent unpredictability of an object that can think or act on its own. Next up is Keter. Keter class SCPs are anomalies that are exceedingly difficult to contain consistently or reliably, with containment procedures often being extensive and complex. The Foundation often can't contain these SCPs well due to not having a solid understanding of the anomaly or lacking the technology to properly contain or counter it. A Keter SCP does not mean the SCP is dangerous, just that it is simply very difficult or costly to contain. Next up is Thaumiel. Thaumiel class SCPs are anomalies that the Foundation specifically uses to counter other SCPs. Even the mere existence of a Thaumiel class object is classified at the highest levels of the Foundation, and their locations, functions, and current status are known to few Foundation personnel outside of the O5 Council. Next is neutralized. Now, as you could probably guess, these are anomalies that are no longer anomalies, either through having been intentionally or accidentally destroyed or disabled. Next up, we have non-standard object classes, first of which is explained. So, an anomaly with this particular object class is simply no longer an anomaly. This is because they are completely and fully understood to the point where their effects are now explainable by mainstream science, or phenomena that have been debunked or falsely mistaken as an anomaly. And that brings us to esoteric classes. Now, esoteric classes are object classes that don't fall into any of the previously listed categories. These are typically one use only, and it is used to help specify a skip. So, for instance, if there is a specific anomaly or phenomena that higher ups need quick access to, and obviously remembering the SCP number is a way to do that, but once you become site director, you know so many of those numbers that they all begin to jumble together. And so esoteric classes were invented for the important skips. That allows you to search the database and pull up the skip that you're looking for because it is the only one under that object class. Although occasionally there are multiple under the same object classes because the anomalies are related. And that brings us to our final object class, decommissioned. So decommissioned skips are an object class that used to be used by senior staff in the past to not only delete bad articles, but place them in a sort of wall of shame to serve as examples of what not to do. This object class is not used anymore. Now, if you are in charge of writing an SCP article and you mess it up, you will have a conversation with your immediate superior about how to properly write one of these articles. You will no longer be publicly shamed for failing to properly write an article. Also, if you keep messing it up, you'll no longer be in charge of writing the article, so there's that. If you're going to be in charge of writing SCP articles, then you are going to want to know about the locked box test. A locked box test is simple and easy to remember. If you lock the anomaly in a box and nothing bad will happen when you leave it alone, then it's probably safe. If you lock the anomaly in a box, leave it alone, and you're not entirely sure what will happen or whether or not it will escape, then it's probably Euclid. If you lock it in a box, leave it alone, and it easily escapes, then it's probably Keter. And if it is the box, then it's probably Thaumiel. And that brings us to our final note about object classes. Object class does not necessarily mean dangerous. You can have a very, very dangerous thing that is very easily contained, which would make it safe, technically, because object class is about difficulty in containing the object. A button that can destroy the entire universe when it's pressed would be safe because you can keep people from pressing it. Whereas a cat who randomly switches places with another cat anywhere on the earth would be considered Keter, because how are you going to contain that? Now, if you have any other questions about object classes, feel free to speak to your coworkers and or your immediate superior, who will be happy to provide clarification. Remember, here at the SCP Foundation, we secure, contain, and protect. We die in the dark so that they can live in the light. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe, and ring the bell if you'd like to see more. If you didn't enjoy this video, go ahead and leave a comment as to why. Please try to keep your comments constructive if you can. And, well, thank you so much. Have a good rest of your whatever.